Hi, I'm Chanel, one of the journalists at Manx Radio. Welcome to the latest edition of Manx Radio Newscast.
So I'm Carol Ann Hanley and I'm the founder of Manx Haemochromatosis Support.
I'm Roanna Miller and I am Carol Ann Support. I'm also admin on our new page on Facebook.
Haemochromatosis, it was not something that was widely known about, but since then you've come back and you've created a whole group, a support group.
Yeah, well, I would say came on in July and I was expecting, one or two people to sort of take note of what was done with the tower being lit up and obviously the interview podcast. But I wasn't quite prepared for the responses I got. I had people messaging me about their own experiences, others about families, their relatives and their families who've got it, others saying, it's about time somebody did something. I was even classed, some people had called me a trailblazer or a pioneer, which I thought was quite a big deal. And that's obviously not why I'd done it, but it's nice to people to see me like that. And it was I'd obviously in the background, I'd considered over the last years since I'd been diagnosed about doing something, about setting something up. And I never really did. But then I thought after the great response that we'd had, maybe this is the time to do it.
And I know at the time you said there were about 300 or just over 300 people that suffered with the condition. Is it a condition?
Yes.
Right, that suffered with the condition. Since interacting with people and their family members, is the number actually more? Do we know?
We suspect it is because obviously we don't know for certain, but I think there's more demand on the services and there's more people who maybe have partners affected or their children are affected and they don't say anything about it. So I think, something like 300 I'd said, but that was obviously going back a couple of years. And obviously as more people are becoming aware of the condition, more people are getting diagnosed and therefore there's more people with it. And I was actually up for venesection on Tuesday and one of the nurse up there was actually telling me that she said there seems to be more people and therefore there's more demand for the service. So really, in truth, there's obviously quite a lot. I mean, a small proportion to somewhere in the UK or Scotland, but quite a lot really for the island. I reckon there's probably at least 500, maybe to 1,000 over here if you went out and, counted up every individual. And then again, that's the people who've maybe been picked up because there will be people out there who don't know because obviously it's genetics and they have to be screened for it and picked up in the first place.
Now, forming this group, I know it took lots of time. It took lots of support as well on your side. But being able to provide this group, to provide that safe haven for people and their families, tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we just want somewhere really where people can kind of feel comfortable and chat with one another and get something out of it because I've found, and I know Roanna's has had this as well with her other half who's got the condition, it's quite lonely and isolated over here. There's not much support outside of Manx Care, and that's something we'll touch on. But and Manx Care are brilliant, no doubt there, no problems there. But we've got no sort of group for anybody who can talk about it, whether they're newly diagnosed and they need help, whether they're upset, whether, what's the next step, because it's something that you're kind of having to live with for the rest of your life as well. Yes, it's not the worst thing. It's not something terminal like cancer, but it is something that will affect people. And in some cases, some of the stuff that can actually be long lasting in terms of the damage. And no one's got any sort of experience or there's no benchmark over here for people to say, well, I'm newly diagnosed, where do I go? Or, what do I do next?
Yeah, and we help outside that. As soon as you get diagnosed with it, then you go off and you do sort of your own research. So as you say, we did feel a bit lonely, even though it was my partner. We both did a research together. But there was no one else to go to, there was no one else to talk to about it, so this is ideal. I think this is brilliant, and hopefully new people that get diagnosed, they'll see the group and think brilliant, and hopefully new people will come along and we'll be able to share together and support each other,
Perfect. Now, Roanna, if I can come to you. So you're one of the people that listened to that initial interview and you've reached out. Listening to the story, listening to everything, what was it like for you?
Well, I just met my partner and he was newly getting diagnosed in the process. So it was like, what is this? I'd never heard of it before, ever. You know, there's so many people that have it, but I've never, ever heard of the word before. You know, so it was strange, and it was lonely. That's really what it felt like. There was nowhere to turn. So for me, it's really important to get more support and more awareness on the island. That's what I really want, you know, so people never feel like that again over here, you know.
And how has having that, you two seem like you support each other. It's not just one-sided, but you seem as though, you know, you bounce off each other and support each other. How does it feel, you know, now having that person raising that awareness, being able to do exactly what you said you'd like to do?
Yeah, well, I think it's brilliant. You know, I just think it's absolutely fantastic, and you know, she's very knowledgeable, very clued up. You know, so I'm chuffed that someone's there, and I'm happy to support her. I didn't have the headspace to take on something like this on my own, but I'm so happy to, you know, be alongside and help, you know, in the background, and the coffee morning that we're having. My mother-in-law actually owns the place where we're going, so you know, we can use that whenever we need to as well. So we've got that space if we need to change it, obviously, because there might have been some issues with accessibility because of stairs. But, you know, we can look into that in the future, can't we?
Yeah, we were a little bit eager to get going because obviously in the past, you know, doing the awareness in July was the biggest sort of deal over here. Now the meeting's the big deal, and we're like raring to go, and we want to get out there, we want people to meet us, and then we didn't, you know, it slipped our mind, oh, maybe some of our, you know, our listeners and some of those who were affected, you know, might have some mobility issues. So obviously we're going to try and help those on the day, but going forward we'll obviously have to address that in the long term.
She commented saying that she called the rusties.
There was one lady, yes, bless her.
Yeah, I've heard it before though. They do say that, don't they? The rusties.
It's a term that many people affected by the condition call people who have it. They go, because obviously with iron and rust, so we get called rusties.
Can I ask a little bit more about the coffee morning? Tell me about it. I understand it's the first meeting, and what will kind of come out in the meeting for someone that's going to be attending? What can they expect?
Well, basically, it's just as it's our first meeting, so we decided to do a coffee morning or an Iron Brew. As across the UK, Haemochromatosis UK often do them up and down the country. We were just happy to call it a coffee morning, weren't we?
Yeah.
Because that's what it is at the end of the day. But they call them Iron Brews, so I thought, well, we might as well call ours Iron Brew. And like the Rusties, it's an affectionate term. So we're having it next Saturday, the 23rd of November. And as Rowanna said, it's in her mother's guest house there. And I hope I'm going to pronounce this properly. The Waldick Guest House, is that right? Because I was a bit worried about I was going to get that wrong. And for anyone who doesn't know, that's in Peel, and it's sort of on the promenade.
Yes, right on the end.
And that's 11:30 a.m. And all are welcome. And that's anyone who's affected by it, anyone who wants to maybe learn something about it, anyone that's maybe, you know, a relative or their mum's got it or their daughter's got it, whatever, just anybody who wants to. And basically, it's just an opportunity for people to come and share their experiences, what they want out of a support group. Yep. Have they got any issues they've had in the past, whether that might be with testing, diagnosis, or, you know, the attitude of their doctors, anything like that. And it's just an opportunity for people to say, well, this is what we want out of a support group going forward. It's literally a get together just to discuss ideas and thoughts and what you want. We are putting on tea and coffee, and I believe you're going to, you and your mum are generously giving us some biscuits as well.
Oh, yeah,
which is always a nice incentive to get people. Big box, apparently.
Can I ask, I know initially when we did the initial interview, you said because there wasn't as much awareness on island at the time, you often used to go to the Haemochromatosis UK website for information. Will this support group then kind of help in the sense that if people are unsure, unaware, you know, they can come to you and kind of get a little bit more guidance and support as well?
Yeah, we're hoping once we get set up and we get a bit more into it and a bit more clued up, that we will be able to be sort of an all-rounder for the island. I mean, obviously, if there is something we really can't cope with, then we will obviously signpost, and we wouldn't leave people standing out in the cold per se. We would do our best, but we're hoping that people will, come to us, and they'd like to would feel more comfortable coming to something on Ireland, because it's obviously that presence at home in the local community.
Yeah, I hope people do reach out. I really hope they do. Just drop a message, or you can actually just write on the Facebook page, and then you'll find everyone else sort of commenting. I really hope people do. That's what it's there for.
Well,
isn't it?
we had a lot of people come in, and nobody was sort of chatting, and maybe that's because they're just getting used to things. And then we've had people who say hello now and introduce themselves, and they tell us what our iron level is or when they got diagnosed. And then we've had a couple of people. I remember one gentleman a few weeks ago who asked, what do people take when their joint pain is, at them, when their iron levels are, because obviously that's one of the symptoms. And obviously we're not medical professionals. We would advise people to go to the GP and seek help. But it was nice and reassuring that this gentleman felt comfortable to ask in the first place, rather than just sitting there suffering in silence.
And plus, something might work for you and that they haven't thought of, and they think, oh, well, I'll try it. And it does work, so that's the sort of thing as well. Sharing, someone might have found something amazing,
Exactly.
and we don't know about it.
And when you're in pain, you try anything.
Of course,
So,
yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about the Facebook page. What's the name? What do people search into? Type in search to find it, things like that.
So, well, Carol Ann set it up. So we're both admins. So it's Manx Haemochromatosis support. And it's an open page at the moment, but we both manage it. Anyone can add themselves to it, so obviously I live with somebody, I care about somebody who's got the condition. It affects our family home. Carol Ann has the condition, even if you're interested in the condition, there's because it's like a hidden disease as well, having more awareness on that, for the likes of work and because they can't see what's wrong with you, so they don't know why you've been so incredibly tired that morning. I know with my partner, I nearly said his name, but I can tell when it's coming to the time where he needs to go in for his venous section, because, he gets incredibly tired, and there's other symptoms as well and then when afterwards, he's brilliant afterwards, but it takes a little bit of recovery as well.
Maybe that's something we'll work on in the future. I mean, Manx law is obviously slightly different to UK law, but it's pretty much similar. And haemochromatosis is considered a disability under the 2010 Equality Act.
Yes,
so,
it is.
And I don't think employers over here necessarily know that.
No.
So, which I'm sure they would be willing to obviously compromise with their individual employees and stuff, but I don't think they know, do they? And to make that provision.
I didn't actually know myself. When I was just doing a bit of research, I saw it and thought, oh my goodness, it is actually.
Wow, there you go. Some conversations for one of the meetings. Spoken to Carol Ann about her as an individual and what she goes through. As someone who, as a family member of someone who has haemochromatosis, how vital is the support as well, not only for the person, but also for the other people that lives with that person?
Yeah, no, I think it is important because as well as it being a condition you can't see, I have to always bring myself back and remember that as well, because obviously when you're with someone you love, someone you're just getting on your day to day, you then sort of forget, and I can get frustrated, and I have to bring myself back and remember, it's something he's suffering from just because I can't see it, so yeah.
I think I've got everything I need. Anything you guys would like to add or say? Anything we missed out?
Yeah, just that we, I guess as well, Manx Care, it's we need something set up outside of Manx Care. They are brilliant. Don't get me wrong. We have the vivisection team, which consists of Sophie and Joe. And I actually met Sophie for the first time because she's been up there, I think, since January, and I've never met her. I've spoken to her many times on the phone. And they've said they'll give their support to us as well. And we have one we did have one consultant at Nobles who kind of sort of specialised in the condition. They actually took on, I think, 3 additional to help the workload, which again also indicates that maybe there's a growing need for it. And again, they've said they're quite happy to help us, but outside of Manx Care, there's nothing. So, like, this is again a reason why we feel that there's, you know, sometimes there's only so much that the doctors and the venesection can do, because obviously at the end of the day they're having to do their job.
Yeah, but time-wise as well.
Yeah.
No, perfect. If I can ask, just because you said, the Manx Care thing, and while Manx Care, they do provide the service, you'd like to see something more on the outside. Is that like kind of where you'd kind of work in line with Manx Care to offer that support that people need? Just so I'm not misinterpreting it.
I'd never really thought of that, but we were discussing this briefly while we were waiting to come in, and we were actually wondering if at some stage in the future maybe there could be some sort of provision when people are newly diagnosed and they go to see the consultant or something like that, and the consultant then signposts them to us. So maybe there is that scope for us to sort of work in conjunction with Manx Care in the future, but we'll just have to see where things go, really.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Manx Radio Newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.